Today I ducked up by doing sit-ups every night. NSFW. This didn't happen today, but over a couple weeks, when I was going to boarding school 8 years back. So I transferred in as a 10th grader from South Korea into a 9th to 12th boarding school in the US. Because it was a boarding school, I had a roommate with whom I had only exchanged a couple emails before coming to the school. The first day of school came, and I got to my room. The room had a bunk bed, and having arrived first, I took the bottom bunk and started unpacking. Soon after, I heard a knock on the door. It was my roommate and his dad. We exchanged greetings and were busy unpacking until it was time to go have lunch, meet new people, and do what high schoolers do on their first day of school. The first day of school went by before I knew it, but I didn't really get to hang out with my roommate that much, as we were supposed to mingle with everybody in our grade. It was soon lights out, so I climbed into my bottom bunk, and my roommate climbed up to his top bunk. We exchanged good nights and prepared for bed. And then I started my daily 50 sit-ups. Huff puff, pant, grunt, finish with an obligatory from the burn. I had been doing 50 sit-ups daily before going to bed for about a year then, and the first day of school was no reason to break my habit. I was kind of afraid that I would wake my roommate, but he didn't say anything, and it sounded like he was asleep. So I thought nothing of it and went to bed. This goes on for a couple days, and one day my roommate carefully asks me without looking down from his bed, are you alright, bro? To which I respond while heavily breathing, yeah, pant, I'm fine. Just doing my daily routine, pant. To this my roommate responds, oh, sure. I shrug it off and go to bed. About a week later, in the middle of my sit-ups, I hear a creaking sound on top of my bed, and from my bottom bunk, I can see my roommate's hands and the top of his head slowly starting to surface from the edge of his bed. He starts to peek down at my bed, but with eyes so white that you'd think that he heard somebody get brutally murdered. I casually continue my sit-ups as usual and ask, what's pant up? Suddenly, I see a wave of relief wash over his face. His expression rapidly changes from fear to realization, to relief, and then to laughter. Oh my god, you were doing sit-ups. Oh, thank god. What did you, grunt, think I was doing? I totally thought you were furiously jacking yourself off every single night before bed. I thought you would come up to my bed and rape me while I was asleep or something. I had been thinking that I was rooming with a nation sexual deviant. And then it hit me. His previous comments. The dreadful silence every night. My roommate acting strange around me. For more than 2 weeks, my roommate had been thinking that my daily sit-ups had been daily me time sessions, complete with my huffing and puffing, grunting, and ass. For more than 2 weeks, my roommate had been laying awake on his top bunk, hearing me panting and grunting down on the lower bed, only imagining me getting myself off, not daring to look down for a fear of witnessing something unspeakable. We had a great laugh, and we still talk about it every once in a while. TLDR, went to boarding school, had a roommate with whom I shared a bunk bed. I slept on the lower bed, he on the top bed. Every night, I did sit-ups before going to bed. For 2 weeks, my roommate thought that I had been furiously getting myself off. Same thing happened to my good friend growing up. His older sister's room was off the living room, and he would do his sit-ups with his feet under the couch before bed. She thought he was having a wank for like a year, until I stayed over one night and we both did sit-ups at the same time. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she looked out that night to discover sit-ups. You know what she was hoping to see, bro? Today I ducked up by taking my 3-year-old daughter into the men's room. I'm a dad of a beautiful 3-year-old girl. Any dad of a daughter will tell you that bathroom stuff is part of the deal. If mom is not around or tending to one of the others, I have to take my little girl into the men's room. So this happened at a quiet little mom and pop restaurant. It was just the two of us in there. I wipe off and cover the seat so she can do her little tinkle, but then I realize I really have to go. No big deal. I just place her in the corner of the stall and say don't move. I start to pee. I hear the door to the restroom open, meaning we are now no longer the only 2 occupants. I hear 2 guys walk in. As one of the sets of footsteps draw near, my little girl starts to back away from the door and ends up right next to me. She looks down at what's going on, with an open door policy on the bathroom at home, and her two brothers. It's nothing she hasn't seen before, and loudly exclaims, "Daddy, look at your little Venus." What the? I hear the other guys in the bathroom kind of snort, and then let loose in laughter. First of all, wow. She's never said that before, or since. Second, what is her frame of reference? Didn't know what I could possibly say to make it any better. I kind of wanted to yell out she's just kidding, it's normal size, but I figured that any remark trying to clarify my size would just come off as creepy. I just stayed in the stall until the other two guys left. I couldn't face them. I'm sure they were out there in the restaurant watching to see me come out, so they could tell their wives about the guy who has a tiny wiener by 3-year-old standards. TLDR, my daughter publicly insults my manhood. If a man says you're ugly, he's just a mean bastard. If a woman says you're ugly, she's just a jealous bitch. If a child says you're ugly, you're seriously ducking ugly. Damn children and their honesty. His daughter basically confirmed for us what everyone else expected. OP has macro Venus. OP got laid despite his macro Venus. Says something about you. I was in a campground shower with my daughter when she was about 3. About halfway through she screams, "Dad, don't forget to wash your vag, JJ." The guy in the next shower absolutely loses it. I couldn't do anything but giggle. Today I ducked up by injecting Viagra into my Venus. Just got back from the emergency room. What a night. Some background. My wife, 27, and I, 31, have recently gotten into swinging. It's been a wild and crazy summer for sure, with enough sexual escapades for a lifetime. She especially has been having a blast, since I'm the only man she's ever even kissed. We started out by meeting couples, then got into going to some nice exclusive swinging clubs and private parties. Tons of fun so far. Only problem is that my erection usually doesn't last for more than 1 to 1.5 hours, but stamina wise, I can go all night, especially in a club full of beautiful naked women. So, I got a little greedy. I saw a urologist and told him I had erectile dysfunction. He prescribed various pills, none of which seemed to prolong my hard-on. So the next step was injection straight into the side of the Venus. I called it Viagra in the post title, but actually it's called Tremix. Same effect though. I initially balked at the idea, but after doing some reading on this particular medication, it lasts several hours and makes your cork hard as a diamond. I gave it a second thought. So I filled the prescription and decided to give it a try last night. To answer a question I'm sure is many readers' minds, no, it's not very painful at all. So I got the wife on board for a night of marathon sass, injected myself, and almost instantly got the thickest and hardest erection I've ever experienced. I almost didn't recognize my duck. Walking around the house with my massive schlong wagging around was great. We had a great duck fest that had to be cut short to 2 hours, only because she was getting sore, and so was I. And that's where things got dicey. I came twice, and it only got harder. I started pouring cold water over it. Nothing. I took 4 Sudafed pills, as suggested online, when you get an out of control erection. Nothing. I started exercising major muscle groups, doing endless sets of push-ups, pull-ups, squats, etc. Also recommended online, in order to divert the blood. Nothing. 3 hours in, it was starting to really hurt, and I was starting to panic. Knowing that the medication came with a warning that prolonged erections lasting longer than 4 hours require emergency medical attention, I rushed to the ER telling the elderly Hispanic woman in charge what happened wasn't fun. I was writhing in pain at this point, and my cork was so sensitive and painful, I could not walk, and required a wheelchair, because the sensation of it rubbing against my shorts as I walked was incredibly painful. Yes, I was awkwardly covering up my erection the entire time. Eventually I got wheeled into a room. I got 2 full doses of morphine. Before I calmed down a bit 40 minutes later, a team of doctors and nurses came in. The resident doctor was a young, cute Indian woman who, unlike the others in the room who tried very hard to act serious, read me and the situation better, and made it pretty clear that she thought this was all pretty hilarious, and cheered me up immediately, by turns making fun of me, and being very vaguely flirtatious. Eventually they got a butterfly needle and proceeded to extract a stupendous amount of blood out of my cork as the doctors took turns squeezing my duck like a lemon. Needless to say, I'll be doing this again, starting at a third of the first dosage. TLDR, wanted to be a sex god by injecting an ED drug directly into my venus. Had to rush to the emergency room because it nearly exploded. Had to get all the blood drained and squeezed out of my cork. Good times.